Welcome to the Festival of Storytellers. I thank everybody that's involved with this process because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers.
Experience is not about the publisher, it is about us, the authors.
Hello there. Sorry we're late. We had computer problems. I'm surprised because it's been going beautifully up to this point, but we had problems with the link. But any case, okay, we're starting late. Again, I'm not sure who is out there. I would love to know who you are, where you're from, or any questions you have. I know some people have been following and been to a couple of these interviews. Now, for those of you who are here for the first time, well, I'll have to try to give a fast synopsis of the book. The book specifically was written for white gay men, since that was the population that I worked with mostly. It was also my experience. And it came out originally in 2000 as a self-help book. This is a book for gay men to use to deal with aging issues. And the basic point of the book is that coming out taught you a lesson, a lifelong lesson about dealing with crises. Probably one of the most important ones of your life. And from the coming out process, you've learned a particular way of functioning in the world, which you can use again when you approach midlife, as I would have seen since the book came out. It can be used at any time of your life for crises. It taught you some basic skills that are inherent now in the way you function in the world. And the book itself is a self-help book. If you don't have a therapist available, it has the questions to ask yourself, the ideas behind the questions, and it's a progression. Bob Montgomery. Hello, Bob. Glad you're here again. Okay, Bob, if you have any particular questions or anything you'd like me to elaborate on, be sure and just send it in. Okay, otherwise, I'm just sort of trying to encapsulate the book. Now, I'm not seeing my picture, so I don't know what's happening. I'm just seeing a screen, but I'm assuming you can hear me. Okay, it says start. Turn on my camera. Well, let's see. How does one? Okay, there it is. Okay, so Bob, if you have any questions, since you've already heard the spiel before, uh, feel free. And anybody out there, if you have any ideas, questions, thoughts, put them down, send them on. Okay, so what I was saying about the book. Hi, Timothy. Yes, all is well now that we've got the computers working. Um, so the book is basically, it's for you. It's for you to use alone or with your friends. And it's a step-by-step process. What I did was use all of my experience as a therapist to frame the questions in such a way. Buenos dias, Chad. So that someone isolated, not in a big city, or who can't afford a therapist, this is for you to use. It's basically taking what goes on in the therapeutic session and putting it into just simply layman terms about what it takes to move through the whole process of dealing with aging. And as I said, the basic structure starts with coming out. If you've come out successfully, you've learned a lifelong lesson that you can use in other crises. Because there are three parts to this coming out process. The first is authenticity. It's you acknowledging who you are and then moving to saying who you are to the safe place in the world. Most likely it's your family, but not necessarily, not for everybody. Hi, Eleanor. Hopefully we'll have a good day. We don't have a lot of time left, but we'll try to get it in. So it's coming out is primarily its authenticity about yourself and to the people around you. It's saying to the world, this is who I am. And the second part is community. It's finding a group of peers and people who, and I use peer, not meaning comparable age group, but people who recognize you for who you are and you recognize them. And then the third part is having a positive sense of the future. Hi, Judith. Thank you for coming back. So those are, as I put it, sort of simply authenticity, community, and hope. And you can use those basic points dealing with midlife, or as I was talking about that I had said the other day, a couple of years ago, I gave a talk to the Environmental Protection Agency Gay LGBTQ and Allies group. Amazingly, there were about 600 people. Now, okay, I just got a message from Bob Montgomery. He said he had a friend who was thinking that maybe he's gay because he doesn't feel anything with girls, and he's planning on meeting a guy this weekend. The thing is, though, he's never said anything about men that would indicate that he swings that way. Do you think what he's doing is a good idea? Well, Bob, I would say what you can advise him is to move away from this binary thinking that it's either or. There are many, many non-gay men who have difficulty relating to women, whether it's lack of interest, genuinely feeling asexual, or because they don't meet the standard of what they think a male should be. I mean, I actually have a relative who, because he was atypical, he was not the typical macho kid. He was very intellectual. He was very much into his own world. He therefore felt, well, if he's not, quotes, a male according to the way he thinks he should be, therefore it must be an alternative. Therefore, he must be homosexual. And he attempted some relationships and was not satisfying. The point was, it wasn't that he was homosexual. It's just that he didn't meet the standard dimensions of what, quotes, he thought a male should be. So your friend Bob may be exploring. And, one of the things about the LGBTQ movement is bringing to consciousness for people is moving away from binary thinking, that it's either A or B. Well, there's A, B, C, D, E, F, and so if you can say to your friend, explore, but don't categorize yourself. See what kind of male you are. There are a lot of men out there who are asexual. I know it sounds strange for many of us, but they literally don't have sexual feelings for either male or female. And they're perfectly content with it. But because society says you shouldn't, they take that on and condemn themselves for being who they are. So be supportive of your friend Bob and caution him against trying to put himself into a category, to give the freedom to find, he may be someone who is asexual. He may be attracted to only one kind of woman. He may be attracted to men. But the most important point is giving himself the freedom to just simply see who he is without stuffing himself into some category. Okay, any more questions? Did you have any particular reasons why you moved to Mexico? Well, Timothy, yes, very definitely. My husband and I came here 2 years ago, basically for me to have the experience of living abroad. I wanted that experience before I died. And so we came to Oaxaca. My first choice was Italy, but my husband had lived in Italy for 3 years while he was doing his research for his dissertation. He was an art historian. Now, we came here in April. By October, he said he could live here for the rest of his life. An important point is my husband is a Black man, and he said he feels comfortable here where he's not the other in the way he is in the United States. And so I was about 70% comfortable being here. We both had been to Oaxaca a number of times because it's a very unique place. It's small, very artistic, with many indigenous groups having some pottery, some sculpture, some embroidery. In any case, good morning, Kay. He felt comfortable here. And I felt in 2000 when we met, actually in 2001, And a year later, he made the decision to retire and move to New York to live with me. And he gave up everything he had in Cleveland, his job, his home. He had an apartment in the city, a home in the country. And so I figured it was time for me to return the favor, so that if he wanted to live here, I was 70% of the way there. And that just put me over. And we made the decision. And November, we started making the serious plans about moving and getting rid of our home in New York, finding a place to stay while we visited New York, but basically being in Oaxaca. And the question, why Oaxaca? First of all, it's a very community-oriented city. It has probably, the state of Oaxaca has the largest number of indigenous groups with their own languages, their own culture, their own way of being. But because there are so many groups, they've learned to work together. And that is a spirit that pervades this city. Now, the city does have problems, typical of any large city. It's about 300,000 to 400,000 people. But mostly it's the communal feeling. There's very definitely a spirituality here, an appreciation of the land, the culture, and of other people. And what we found is the migrants who've moved there, who've moved here, the majority have had some experience living abroad or working with Peace Corps or similar community groups. Judith Barton said, would you say Mexico is more open to the queer community than it is in America? I can't say for all of Mexico. Now, Mexico, it's legal. I should say it's not illegal to be gay. You see men walking around and women walking around holding hands. This is a very homosocial culture. So seeing women walking hand in hand does not necessarily mean being lesbian. And men holding hands, it tends to be more the gay men. But you do see men holding hands and talking and being physical with each other, as you would in a lot of homosocial cultures. But I wouldn't say Mexico is more open, because remember, we're living in a very particular place. Mexico City is a very modern city in those terms, about being more gay friendly. But again, you can go to areas that are not friendly. But just as I tell people, living in New York, there are areas of New York City that I cannot walk hand in hand with my husband, simply because it's not safe. And again, which reminds me, I realized I hadn't finished the thought before, asking about why Oaxaca. And it's important. As I said, my husband is a Black man, and he said he's tired of living in a white culture where he is the other, and people relate to him in that sense. He doesn't feel that here. He understands he's a migrant. He understands he's different, but it's not the same as the Black man in the white United States. Okay, Bob says, thanks, Harold. That's indeed a good way to go about it. I'm trying to learn more about this stuck, but I think I'm still kind of stuck on the attitudes I had growing up. Thanks again. Well, You know, as I've said to you in talking about my book, one of the reasons I was attracted to the particular program that the University of Chicago had was because it was separate from psychology. The psychology department was very traditional, talking about psychology as a science, and they studied the minutiae of individuals, etc. It was a committee where we actually studied and we viewed the human as a psychological being in a physical body in a political, social, cultural world, which made us very different than the psych department because you had to account for all of these aspects and we had to study them in biology, genetics, sociology, anthropology, as well as core courses. And the unique thing about it, and this relates to my book, is that the concept of developmental tasks that continue throughout the lifespan. My department did not believe that, who you were was determined by the age 3 or 4, and then you just lived it out. That you had different tasks to deal with at every age, and it continued until death. And that's one of the reasons why I developed the book that I did based on those concepts, that we have tasks that we have to work at as we grow old. It's not just simply a matter of aging, but it's constantly expanding. It's dealing with, in a sense, one crisis after another, because at every point as we age, the world is different for us. And that's why at midlife, the coming out process comes in again. Because as I said, the coming out process is being authentic, recognizing who you are and being recognized by the world for who you are. And at midlife, you have to go through that again, because you were used to one way of being in the world. Now there's another way of being in the world with a new set of peers to deal with, and knowing you have a positive future. And that's incredibly important to help battle what I call internalized gay ageism, the negative feelings that we have about growing old. And as I've mentioned before in these talks, one of the things that spurred me on was the AIDS crisis back in the 80s, because I was shocked at seeing how many gay men that I knew personally or as clients who were more afraid of growing old as a gay man than they were of dying. And some actually hastened their death by not giving up their use of coke or not exploring alternatives, but just simply turned over their complete health care to someone else. Timothy said, "I'm glad you found a home there in Oaxaca. I'm told it's a very beautiful place." Yes, it is. It's a colonial city. What was the city that I first visited in 71 is now the UNESCO Heritage Center of the city, because it's expanded all out into the hills, etc. But it is a beautiful place to be. Now, Kay says, "I hope there will come a future where we are all comfortable anywhere in this world where we're not the other and we're just ourselves. Well, Kay, that's what I hope. That's what I work towards. And I hope we all, I don't think we're going to see it in my lifetime. As I've told you all, I'm 87. So, this is the last phase of my life, no matter how long it lasts, but I'm enjoying it. But yes, more and more of us are finding ourselves and finding safe places. But obviously, it's not everywhere. Travis says Mexico has the best people to jam with, full of colors. And that's true. You see color combinations everywhere. And walking down the street, because we live in the old section, the colonial section, murals on the walls, it's beautiful. I mean, it's alive. You feel the presence. And some of the murals are decades old. Some of them are fresh. Peggy says, you have a very wonderful and beautiful bond with your husband. Here's to everyone finding someone. That's true. Thank you, Peggy. But I also want to say, being with someone else is not necessarily for everyone. I think what's important is if someone is not with someone, to not feel they failed, to feel they somehow, their world may not be a world in which a single relationship is primary. Some of us are constructed that way, but others are not. But what I do say is that everyone has to have their chosen family. Okay, I'm being given aging. Timothy said aging can be a very scary thing, especially for queer folk. That's true. It can be scary, Timothy, but it also can be extremely rewarding. It does mean learning to look to your new peers. And if you want any just information about this, look up sageusa.org. It's for us gay elders. And that goes from 50 on up. Okay, I'm getting the cue to wrap this up. Well, okay. Now look, I'm going to be talking again tomorrow at 12 noon. Okay, 12 noon. And also, if you have questions, you can always write me to care of my email address. It's my name, Harold Kooden, #1, @gmail.com. Okay. Ending it, Bob says, I agree that some people are not just for romantic relationships, but what they can do is to have deeper non-romantic relationship with others. Absolutely. Absolutely. The importance is having a support system around you. Okay, everybody. So hopefully we'll see you tomorrow again, Thursday at noon. Okay? So you all have a good day, and come back tomorrow. Think of your questions or write me. I will answer. Okay. Goodbye.